All officers, please report to mission briefing. All officers to briefing.
Alright, Captains, you have the hardware, you got the tactics, but you still can't seem to get the upper hand in battle. Until now. Hello everybody, I'm Randy Mabob, and today we will discuss some of the most important equipable items for your ships in Dreadnought. Officer Briefings. Officer Briefings are essentially perks that offer active and passive bonuses. Bonuses that can be used on any ship that is tier 3 or higher. To get them, you must grind out a certain ship and unlock it much like you would do with a module. I would recommend that you see which briefings you may want and add those ship lines to your fleet to start gaining some of that sweet passive XP while you work on the briefings you want. I will split this guide into the 4 officer briefing categories: communications, weapons, navigation, and engineering. Communications houses some seriously powerful game-changing officer briefings. First, we have Communications 101. Along with all the 101s is a default briefing you receive with your first tier 3 ship. Communications 101 lowers all cooldowns by 10%, getting your nukes online just a little bit faster. Next, we have Feedback Loop that is found on the Palos Tier 3 Jupiter Arms Tactical Cruiser that grants the ability to gain some energy when modules come off cooldown. The longer the cooldown, the more energy you receive. Now on to some of the more disruptive briefings of this category. These modules will completely change how you play most of your ships. These briefings start with Module Recycler. You find this on the Lorica Tier 3 Oberon Dreadnought. This briefing makes it to where module kills remove 15 seconds off of all active cooldowns. This works on NPC assault ships that populate the onslaught mode as well. Moving on, we have one of my personal workhorses, Retaliator. You find this bad boy on the Jutland Tier 4 Jupiter Arms Dreadnought. The way it works is when you take damage while your shields are up, the damage received reduces your active cooldowns. I love this one because it makes it to where you can dish out just as much pain as they're trying to inflict on you. And last of this category is Desperate Measures. You'll find this on the Murometz Tier 4 Akula Vector Artillery Cruiser. So when you are critically low on health, a few things will happen. All your cooldowns will reset, your debuffs and buffs are removed, also your energy fills to 100%. This allows for some aggressive builds. The weapons category houses some powerful briefings, but nothing I would call game-changing. First up, we have another 101 in the form of Weapons 101, which gives you a 6.5% increase to weapon damage. It's pretty tame. Next, we have Module Amper that you get from the Blood Tier 4 Akula Vector Destroyer. This powerful briefing grants you a 30% module damage and module healing bonus while Power to Weapons is active. A lot of times that 30% is the difference between killing a target or not. Moving along, we have Glass Cannon, which can be found on the Nox Tier 4 Oberon Artillery Cruiser. This briefing grants a 25% damage bonus while at 100% HP, but a 25% reduction in weapon damage when below 100% HP. A natural pick for artillery cruisers as they usually don't play in the front lines. These next two see a fair amount of work. We have Destruction Cascade found on the Streebog Tier 4 Akula Vector Corvette that grants a 30% weapon damage bonus after landing a killing blow. This works on NPC assault ships in onslaught mode as well. And lastly, we have Survival Instinct found on the Onager Tier 4 Jupiter Arms Artillery Cruiser. When you are under 50%, this briefing reduces weapon reload times by 50%. Navigation briefings, for the most part, are pretty straightforward. Again, we start with another 101, this time Navigation 101, which gives a 10% bonus to ship speed. Next, we have Slow and Steady that is found on the Chernobog Tier 3 Akula Vector Dreadnought. This briefing gives you a 10% reduction in damage at the cost of your ship being 10% slower. These next 3 briefings all require you to have Power to Engines active in order to gain the benefits. Leading off with Navigation Expert found on the Medusa Tier 4 Oberon Corvette. This briefing reduces the drain from Power to Engines by 50%, but increases the cost to Power to Weapons and Power to Shields by 30%. With this, you can pretty much leave Power to Engines on and zoom around the map to your heart's content. Next, we have Nerves of Steel, located on the Vigo Tier 4 Jupiter Arms Destroyer. This briefing grants you a speed burst and a bit of damage reduction when hit while power to engines is active. Do you just gotta go fast? Well, then you need Engine Rigger. Engine Rigger is found on the Vindicta Tier 4 Oberon Destroyer. This thing is like a turbo for your ship with a wonderful 100% speed bonus while power to engines is active, but you now guzzle energy with a punishing 75% cost to power to engines. Now we are finally to the final category, Engineering. Here we have briefings that again are some game changers, but also has its share of duds. First, we have Engineering 101, again a default briefing, but this one grants a 6.5% reduction in damage. It's pretty simple. Next, we have the mainstay of my fleet. This officer briefing is slapped on pretty much every ship I own, and that is Get My Good Side, which is found on the Machias Tier 3 Jupiter Arms Corvette. Now, a fun fact about this briefing is that it used to be called It's a Trap, and would only work if you got shot in the rear. Well, I ended up butt-tanking across the maps, and it became very popular. It got so popular, in fact, that most battles in Dreadnought were fought backwards for weeks. It was glorious! But the developers thought it looked silly and ended up changing it. But oh man, they changed it so good now! The way it works is when you are a Dreadnought or a Destroyer, if you take damage from the sides, you gain energy. Now, if you're a Corvette, a tactical cruiser, or an artillery, you only gain energy when shot from the rear. This is a game changer, and there's very little reason not to use this on a Dreadnought. And one of the few I'd recommend is Adrenaline Shot. Adrenaline Shot is located on the Koshi T4 Akula Vector Tactical Cruiser. When healing or receiving heals, you gain energy as long as you are healing or being healed. This briefing is extremely powerful in a coordinated team. Please note, this ability is about to be reworked and we don't know exactly what they plan to do with it. Next, we have Reinforce located on the series Tier 3 Oberon Tactical Cruiser. This briefing is simple. It increases your ship's maximum hit points. This value does vary from ship to ship, but it also adds a 20% increase to all cooldowns. Always catch, right? And lastly, we have Tip the Scales, found on the Voro Tier 4 Akula Vector Dreadnought. This briefing increases HP regen speed at the cost of energy regen speed. I think we can all agree that this officer briefing needs a little bit of love. Well guys, that about wraps it up. Keep your eyes peeled for Volume 2 of this Officer Briefings Guide, where we explore the powerful combinations of officer briefings that can dramatically change how you play Dreadnought. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this. Again, I am Randy Mabob, and until next time, keep it classy.